Hello, and welcome to the Gay Cruise and Travel Podcast with me, just Joey T. All right, happy Pride Month. It is now the month of June here in West Hollywood, where I live and where this podcast is recorded and produced. We just had West Hollywood Pride or WeHo Pride, so that was a really nice way to kick off Pride Month. Technically started in May because May 31st was Saturday, and we hope it kind of kicked off on Friday, honestly. So yeah, it was a great way to kind of sort of bring in June Pride Month. And I'm wishing you all a safe and happy and joyous Pride Month and start to the summer coming up for all of you. All right. Today, the main topic, I'm going to talk about my experience / review of EDC Las Vegas just from, was it April, May? The time flies. I forgot when I went. It was in May. It was like 3 weeks ago that I was at EDC in Las Vegas. And it's going to be not like a critical formal review, but I just want to talk about what my experience was doing Camp EDC, going to camp in an RV. So we'll get to that. That is going to be the main topic for today. We don't only talk about cruises on this podcast. I would also like to talk about, other travel that I know about and that I do. So that's why we're talking about EDC this week. Before we get to that, couple of things I want you guys to check out. I had a couple of brand new YouTube videos that were posted last month. So that was the Atlantis Allure vlog from the cruise in February. Go check that one out in case you have missed that cruise or you were wondering what that cruise was like or you were on it. I want to relive that experience a little bit. That vlog is up for all of you on my YouTube channel, Just Joey T, on the same YouTube channel. I also have my most recent advice video, which is Gay Cruise Myths and Facts. Go check that one as well. I've been getting lots of great comments on that one. It's been getting more views than I expected. So hopefully a lot of you are finding that one very, very helpful. And hey, do you know that I have a Patreon? So we are going to talk about my experience at EDC today, but I also vlogged my trip later this month in June. So part of the perks for some of the tiers on my Patreon is that they get my travel vlog. So whenever I do any sort of travel, it could be EDC, it could be a road trip, it could be, a visit to visit my family, whatever the travel is, I do a little vlog, and almost every week there is a new installment of a travel vlog. That's just one of the perks of my top tier OPA Patreon subscribers. They actually get a monthly live stream with me. We did our live stream for May just this past weekend on Saturday, and that was almost 2 hours, and I think almost all of the top tier OPAs, top tier subscribers joined. We just had like a great back and forth. And basically for those top tier subscribers, they get to ask me anything, anytime. We have a little private chat within Patreon where I communicate with them. They can just ask me about anything. They comment on the things I post about. So if you would like to support me, if you would like to support this podcast, if you would like to support my YouTube channel and also get a little bit of content and extra interaction in return, go check out Patreon. It's in my link tree that is linked in the description of this podcast, both in Spotify and also on YouTube, wherever you're watching or listening to this podcast. Or if you're not ready to take that step for Patreon yet, why not do a little tip on my YouTube channel? Under all of my YouTube channels, there is a thanks button. You may need to click on the little 3 dots there besides the like button. There'll be a thanks button under each of my videos. You can leave me a tiny little tip to help support this channel and my content. Or I also have Buy Me a Coffee, which is an app where you can very easily tip your favorite creator. So your support is so appreciated to keep this podcast running, keep my YouTube channel running, and keep supporting me so I can keep producing tons of great content and advice for all of you. All right, some of you listen just for the cruise advice. I'm going to very quickly, before we get to the EDC, just run through sales projections and updates for the upcoming Atlantis cruises, the ones that are not sold out. Symphony 2026, next February, is selling very well. It's well over half sold. You still have time to book that one, but I wouldn't wait too much longer. I'm guesstimating that it's probably going to be like 90 something, 95, or even possibly actually sold out sometime in like August, September-ish timeframe. Even if it doesn't sell out, if you want to go on that cruise, you should just book it now, because when a ship is 90 something percent full, the selection of remaining rooms is obviously very low, and you might not be able to book a type of room that you want, or you might not be able to pick a location for that room that is to your liking. So I would say just try to get that booking in as soon as possible. I do definitely predict it will sell out. It just depends on when it's going to sell out. I'm guessing based on how well it's selling out, how well it's selling right now, and also historically how well this cruise in previous years have sold, probably something like August, September-ish, maybe a little early, maybe a little bit later. The October 2026 cruise, this is the October Halloween cruise, where it used to be on the West Coast out of SoCal, either LA or Long Beach or somewhere, or San Diego sometimes. This year, they're doing it on the East Coast. They've never done this cruise on the East Coast before. It's approximately half sold, which I thought was going to sell a little bit better than that by this point. But also, again, they've never done this cruise out of the East Coast. So it's kind of sort of, in a way, a new cruise. You know, when you have to go to like the other side of the country to get on a cruise, that does change things for quite a lot of people. Usually, though, when it was on the West Coast, and this is a cruise that they run every single year, it's only ever gotten like to the mid to high 2000s in the number of passengers. They never get more than like 28 or 2,900 passengers. It's kind of sort of between like 25 to like 2,800 passengers is how many people they usually are able to get to book this cruise. In previous years when it was on the West Coast, I don't know how high it's going to get this year, now that it's out of Miami. But hey, if you're looking for something to do in October, that one's still available. The July Barcelona to Lisbon cruise is still available if you feel like going to Europe, coming up pretty soon. That's coming up just next month. And I've somehow just had several people just casually mention to me, oh, they're booked recently on the Asia cruise from Hong Kong to Singapore. That one's a longer cruise, sailing in November, but that one is still available as well. The August Med cruise is sold out a long time ago. A New Year's cruise, that sold out in record time. Yeah, but that's a quick update for the Atlantis cruises coming up that are still bookable. All right, moving on to the main topic of the day. This is my EDC/Camp EDC review/experience/opinions. I think some of you that have done EDC multiple times, especially if you've done Camp EDC multiple times, after you've done it like 3 or 4 times, you start to become experienced. You know, the first time you do it, especially camping, the first time or just EDC, the first time you do EDC, because EDC is so big, it's so complicated to like plan out. Especially if you're camping, there's an extra layer of complexity there. It's not just like a random party you can just go to when you feel like it on a whim on a Saturday night. People plan months in advance, many months in advance, like a year in advance to go to EDC. So if you've gone like once or twice, or if you've never camped before, I think this is probably going to be pretty helpful information for you to decide, oh, you're interested in EDC, but you don't really know what it's like. Or you've done EDC before, you stayed on the strip at a hotel, but you've never done Camp EDC, and you're curious what that is like. I think this is where maybe this is going to be like of most interest. If you've done EDC 20 times, I don't know if you've, this could still be entertainment. Anyways, I think this is my 5th or 6th EDC, and this is my 3rd time camping. So when I first started doing EDC, I went a few times just doing the shuttles, but I think this is my 3rd time camping. So we're going to talk about the parking for Camp EDC, because I've never driven into EDC and parked there for Camp EDC before. Every other time that I've done camp, it was an RV, and I just like rode in with the RV. I flew into Vegas, and I just met up with the RV, whoever was renting it, on like Wednesday night or Thursday morning. And then we all just drove in with the RV. This year, I drove to Vegas from LA. So I had my car with me, and I was meeting up with the RV like at the campground. So I parked at EDC. There's a camp parking lot for that. So I'll talk a little bit about that because that was something I had never done before, and I was like really curious about how that worked. And I didn't find a ton of great information, and it also changed a little bit from year to year, just because it was one way a previous year. This means it's gonna be the same this current year. So I'll talk about that. I'll talk about the showers and toilet situation. That's one of the most important things to be concerned about, whether it's going to be a good showers and toilet situation or a bad one when you're at Camp EDC, like food, drinks, like the accommodations if you have a tent or like an RV or whatever, but like showers and toilets, this is important shit. Talk a little bit about what the weather was like this year. Some year it's cold, some years is hot. I will let you guys know what the weather was like this year for those who are curious. I'll talk a little bit about the festival itself in terms of like the facilities. I'm not here to like rank the musical performances. This is not what this is, what this review is about. And I'm gonna end it by talking a little bit about the ticket situation for next year, which apparently all the tickets have been sold out. But I have a few comments and opinions on that. Hey, when was the last time you really took care of your skin? The skin is the largest organ in the whole human body and is doing so much for you. It protects you from germs and cooties. It keeps you warm when you're cold. It keeps you cool when you're hot. It's making vitamin D. It gives you the gift of touch and sensation. And that's just scratching the surface, so you better take care of it. I started my own skincare company, Serve Labs, to serve fun and functional skincare for everyone, so that you can serve fun while serving face. Go to servelabs.co, servelabs.co, or follow us at Serve Labs on Instagram, Facebook, or Twitter, and discover how easy and fun it is to treat your skin right with Serve Labs. Let's dive into the parking and check-in situation. So again, I was driving into EDC in my own car, and I was gonna meet up with the RV. Like there's a separate entrance for the actual RVs to drive into EDC. And if you are camping in a tent, or you are gonna be staying in an RV, but you're not coming in with the RV, but you're driving into EDC instead, there's a particular Camp EDC parking lot that's separate from the parking for like everyone else. This year, it's also called the turquoise lot. So it was Thursday mid-afternoon, 2 or 3 p.m. That I drove in from the Strip into EDC, and I was looking for a address specifically for like the turquoise lot or like the Camp EDC part of it. The only address that we were able to find was just like the general EDC address. Just dumped it into Google Maps, and I just kind of sort of followed it, assuming that there would be signage as we got closer to the speedway that would be directing, okay, if you have an RV, go this way. If you Camp EDC parking, go this other way. If you're like an Uber, go this way. If you're like whatever, right? I thought that'd be like good signage, because they have to manage so many different types of traffic going into EDC, because you could actually drive to EDC. Like if you're not camping there, let's say you live in Las Vegas and you're just gonna drive to EDC because you have a car. There's actually several parking lots for people to park their cars and then to get to the festival that way. You can take an Uber or Lyft or rideshare or taxi. There's like a different area for the pickups and drop-offs for that. There's the Camp EDC parking lot I told you about. There's obviously the campgrounds, and RVs have to go in a particular way to get into the campgrounds and pack up. There are all the people that are going to be staying in tents. They have the official EDC shuttles that pick up from a few different areas within Las Vegas to like, you know, every night and then every morning afterward to take people in and out. You can do a helicopter. Like there's so many different ways to like get into and from EDC, and a lot of it depends on cars or vehicles of some nature. I thought, okay, they've done this every year. They have all these different types of cars going in and out. They must have good signage for everything. The signage was not very good. There was no sign that we really saw for us to follow. We kind of sort of just like punched the general EDC address into the nav, and it kind of sort of just followed what seemed to be what we assumed was everyone else driving into EDC. And this was on Thursday. Only campers can go into EDC on Thursday. It's just the campgrounds that are open on Thursday. The festival doesn't open until Friday. So we kind of sort of just follow all the other traffic. We kind of sort of like had to drive all the way around the speedway, which is not small, by the way, to kind of sort of figure out, oh, where's the camp EDC parking entrance? We made our way there eventually, but there wasn't too much traffic, which is good. Just signage was kind of crap. There wasn't any security checks on the car itself. I guess that's typical. I just had no idea what to expect. But there was no security checks on the car. Like we found the Camp EDC parking lot entrance. We drove in. You need to have like your Camp EDC parking pass on your windshield, which we had that. Which was fine. They just scanned it and you got in. There are people directing you to like exactly where to park. You don't get to choose where you park in the EDC. You are shown where to stop your car. And they're pretty picky and strict about that. But the actual Camp EDC parking lot was pretty close to the campgrounds and also to like the festival. So like once we parked up, we were kind of sort of parked what kind of sort of felt like the middle-ish of like the whole parking lot. We got there. We weren't the first ones to get there, but we're definitely not the last ones to get there. And it was maybe about like a 5-minute walk, like a leisurely 5-minute walk from the car where we happened to be parked. Again, we had no saying where we were parking. We were just told to like park here. Leisurely 5-minute walk from the car to the check-in and security area that you have to go through if you were parking for Camp EDC. And then it was another from the security checkpoint to check-in, depending on where in camp you're staying, like where your tent is or where the RV you're meeting up with happens to be, it could be another like 5 to 10, 12-minute walk. Campgrounds is actually pretty big, and there's only like the one check-in area for if you're driving in to Camp EDC and parking there. But there's just like the one Camp EDC parking lot, so you have to go in through that particular way. So it's a little bit of a walk. I met up with the RV before either myself or the RV drove into EDC on purpose so that I could basically take all the luggage from my car and move and put it into the RV so that I would not have to drag all my luggage from the Camp EDC parking lot to the RV, but I had assumed that would not be a short walk. And the amount of people that were hauling like tons and tons of stuff for camp. It's like you saw all sorts of people hauling like tons of water, tons of food, tons of drinks, whatever. A lot of people that park in Camp EDC, they're staying in the tents. And the tent is just the tent. And then a little air conditioning unit. And the nicer tents come with like a bed, like a air mattress or something like that, and like the bedding. But if you want your own food, your own drinks, you're welcome to bring that, but you have to bring it yourself. So we saw a lot of people, the smarter ones had like the little fold-up little wagon trolley things on wheels that you can put a bunch of stuff onto this like wagon trolley thing, and then you can just kind of roll it with you. We saw so many people that had like big cases of water, but not like a trolley wagon cart thing. We saw people that had like these giant ice coolers, giant coolers filled with stuff with ice and drinks or whatever, no wheels, and it was just like dragging on the pavement. You know, it's not a short walk. It could be like 15 or 20-minute walk from your car in the parking lot to wherever you're staying on the campgrounds, and to be dragging, I don't know however heavy that stuff is, and also your luggage. You need to bring your clothes and your personal effects or whatever. So even though I was staying in an RV and I had put all my luggage into the RV, I met up with the RV to do that before we drove into EDC. If you ever go to Camp EDC and you're driving to Camp EDC, bring a foldable, collapsible wagon, cart, whatever thing from Amazon with wheels. That would make it very easy for you to like haul all your shit from the car to your tent or the RV if need be. That is like that is the thing that you have to do. I'm guessing from all the people that didn't have that, it was maybe their first time doing it, because I feel like you learned that lesson real quick. You need one of those collapsible, foldable cart, wheel, Amazon trolley, whatever things. Anyways, I was smart and I didn't have to do that. But the check-in was really good. You have to have your festival pass wristband on you already. And as long as your name is already on the camp reservation, then at the check-in counter there, they will give you a camping bracelet. Because you have a separate camping bracelet to show that you are allowed to enter the campgrounds. And you have your separate festival bracelet that shows that you have the ticket to go into the festival. So you need 2 separate bracelets if you're camping. But that was fine. And then there was just like a standard security check, which was like pretty standard. And so for me, I just had like my backpack with me. It wasn't really anything to bring. And the check-in was like not super busy when we got there at like 3 or 4 p.m. It was not tons and tons of people. It was not crowded. There was no longer for check-in, no longer for security. I don't know when the bulk of people go to EDC if they're parking there, but that's the time I got there and there wasn't any wait. Once we got past all that, we started walking towards the campgrounds, which is like, again, could be something like 5 to 10 or 12 minutes, depending on, could be, I guess, maybe even like 15 minutes. You're not walking that quickly and you're at like the far end. But we noticed they had these carts, they call it a tram service, if I remember correctly, where they could kind of sort of drive you to roughly the part of camp where your tent is. When we saw a tram, we thought it was like a fun thing. It was like a, like a tram at camp. It's like, it's like a fun to ride the tram. We thought it was like an entertainment type of thing, but it's actually for people who are staying in the tents who has all the shit to lug, and they don't have like a cart with wheels or like a trolley, like I was talking about before. But there was like a 20-minute wait when we like walked up there, and we saw there was like a person saying, "Oh yeah, this is like the whatever service," but it's like a 20-minute wait. But it wasn't meant for like, we were gonna go on it because we thought it was like, oh, let's ride the tram, but it was not for us. Yeah, so that was the experience of like driving into EDC to park at the camp EDC parking lot, which is the turquoise lot this year. I don't know if my experience is representative of what the experience would be for most people, but there wasn't much traffic, minimal traffic, not no traffic. Driving in, I wish the signage was better, but we kind of somehow got to the lot without too much trouble anyways. We didn't take any massive detours or didn't have to make like a ton of stupid U-turns. But parking was fine. Walking to the check-in was fine. Security was fine. And yeah, I would do it again. I was really worried about just driving in because I just assumed everything would be a clusterfuck. I had low expectations. But if I ever had to like meet up with people I was camping with, whether they were driving in with the RV and I wasn't able to ride along in the RV to get to the campgrounds, or I was like, if I were to like do a tent and I was driving in because of that, like I would not hesitate to drive in for that. The other thing to know about this is with the Camp EDC parking pass for the turquoise lot, there are no in and out privileges. Once you scan in, you're in. If you leave, you can leave at any time. You can drive your car out of the Camp EDC parking lot at any time, but you can't use that same pass to go in a second time. So each Camp EDC turquoise lot parking pass will only let you enter the camp parking lot exactly once. So you can't like drive the car out and then drive it in again on the same pass. I guess you could have multiple passes if somehow that was available to you. But yeah, if you just had one single pass, you drive in on whenever you drive in, and you can leave whenever, but once you leave, you can't come back into the lot on that same pass. All right. The Camp EDC bathrooms and showers. So with my RV crew, I joined them kind of last minute. And they had a rule. I mean, I'm joining in last minute, so I respected whatever rules they wanted for the RV. They had a rule that no one was going to do number 2s or showers in the RV. And I was like totally chill with that. The other times I came in with an RV, it was no number 2s, obviously, except for like, well, I mean, even if it is an emergency, it can't be so much of an emergency that you can't walk like a couple of minutes to the nearest toilet, honestly. But the other times I did the RV, it was also no number 2s, but like you could very quickly rinse off if you were taking care to like use the minimal amount of water. But with this crew, they were like, okay, no showers, no number twos, and like I was totally okay with that. So I ended up going only using basically the toilets and the showers that were at the campground. So obviously in the campgrounds, they have showers and toilets and all that stuff for people, especially like if you're staying in a tent, obviously you don't have your own shower and bathroom or whatever. At the particular station we were at, they had about a dozen porta potties that had a flush function. I didn't know that porta potties with a flush existed. So most porta potties you go to at like a festival or like a street fair or whatever, it's just like the chemical toilets that don't flush, that get kind of gross. But these ones, they actually flush. They had like actual running water that flushed the bowl. And they were pretty clean throughout my entire time at camp. I never had to wait for any of the toilets. But, you know, I did my number two like once a day. You know, that I usually go like once a day. And each time that nature called, I didn't have to wait. There were a couple of them that ran out of toilet paper. I noticed on the last night, like Sunday night into Monday morning, it was like after the festival, after I got home from the festival, and I noticed that a couple of the stalls had run out of toilet paper. But otherwise, I didn't have any issues with them. When I got in on Thursday, and then I was quickly reminded that I would have to use porta potties. I thought they have nicer toilets. For some reason in my head, I thought like, they must have like these trailers with like nicer toilets, like they do for like the GA plus people in the actual festivals, where they have like trailers, these big trailers that come in and they have like nicer bathrooms. So when I saw walking up in the campgrounds, walking up to that, there were like porta potties. I was like, oh my God, I'm gonna have to use a porta potty for the whole fucking weekend. But it turned out they were kept pretty clean throughout. Several times I saw there was like a cleaning crew that was kind of sort of stationed there, at least during like regular hours, to like kind of keep things clean. So that worked out really well. Yeah, and I never had to wait. And they also had urinals, like the trough urinals that if that's suitable for you, you can just walk up. And I never saw that fill up. So like I basically never had to wait to pee either. The one thing I would have loved is to have those paper covers for the toilet seats. These being porta potties, even though they flush, they're still porta potties. All you had inside was like a hook to hook something onto and a toilet paper dispenser and the flush. That's it. There were no toilet seat covers like you would get in like an actual regular bathroom. For the showers, all the shower stations that I saw, there were 4 shower trailers, 2 for men and 2 for women. And there were two different types of shower trailers though. So of the 2 trailers that you have access to, one of them had larger shower stalls where they had like the shower itself, but in front of it, there's like a little dressing area. So there's like 2 sets of curtains. And then in between the 2 curtains is kind of sort of like the dressing area where there's like a little table. You can set stuff down, put your clothes down, your shower gel or shampoo or whatever. And then if you go past the second curtain, that's where the actual shower, the shower head and like the whatever is. So that is probably like the nicer one. The other trailer, for some reason, has a different setup. It didn't have that extra dressing area. So it was just like the one curtain and like the shower stall. If you exit the shower stall, you're just kind of so like out in the open. But that one has twice as many shower stalls in it. At the particular shower station I was at, it was that one with double the shower stalls. That was the one that I reliably found had hot water. It's kind of hit and miss which stalls had hot water. I noticed early on when I was walking by one of the shower trailers, basically on the outside, one end of the shower trailers, they have a bunch of electric hot water heaters. Okay, so maybe some of them sometimes don't work or are faulty or need a reset or whatever. So it really depends which stall you go into, whether it had actual properly hot water or whether it would be lukewarm or it was just cold. So there were a couple of times where like I walked up to a stall, I would test the hot water first, and there were a couple of times where like, okay, there's no hot water coming out of this one, I went to a different stall. But there were definitely a bunch of stalls that reliably had hot water, and I really quickly learned, okay, I used this other stall the other night, and it had a hot water, I'm going to try to use that same one. But I never had to wait for a shower either. I'm sure there were times where people had to wait for the showers. I think a lot of people in Western cultures tend to shower first thing in the morning when they wake up before they go out and about doing their thing. I don't do that. When I was growing up, I would shower at night before bed. And when I woke up, like I didn't shower in the morning unless there was like some particular reason to. So the only time that I went to the showers at EDC were after I got back from the festival. So this would be at like 4 or 5 a.m., something like that, except for like the very last night on Sunday morning where I kind of sort of I came back a little later after sunrise. So the times when I was showering, it was like 4 or 5 a.m. And there was no wait. Like it wasn't even like half full, the stalls. I guess most people were not showering at that point. Yeah, so I personally never had to wait. I noticed they had a tent outside the shower trailers with the cool water mist. And that's designed for if it's like a really hot or warm day that you could just go there and just like have this fine water mist to like cool off. When it is hot, that is awesome. That is like super awesome. But it wasn't super hot this year. And I'll talk about the weather a little bit later on. So like I said, I would go to the shower at like 4 or 5 a.m. when it was like a little bit chilly, just a touch. So to have this like cold water mist spraying when I got out of the shower trailer was not the most pleasant. I don't know why they kept that on when it was like 60 degrees outside in like the middle of the morning. The one thing that I didn't do, which would be applicable to some of the gays, i.e. the bottoms, I never intended to have sex at EDC. EDC is not like a super like sexual type of a event for me. It's not like some gay circuit party, but so I never, I had my douche with me, but like I never really like planned to douche. Like I always have my travel douche in my luggage. It's just like part of the luggage. So I never douched, but I never planned to have sex, and I didn't. But I could imagine it being like a little bit harder, not impossible, to douche at EDC because like some people do it in the shower. I feel like the way the showers are set up, I feel like it would be kind of gross to douche in the shower. Because like basically the water from the adjacent shower stalls, they will like, it will travel between the stalls. Basically, it's just like, yeah, it feels a little gross the way the showers are to like douche in the shower. So the other alternative would be to douche in the porta potties, and because there's no running water, like there's no faucet or whatever. If you had like a bulb douche, for example, I can see how it would be a little difficult. If I usually douche on the toilet, by the way. Sorry, this is TMI. But I think this is important information for Camp EDC. If I were to do that, I would probably bring some sort of water bottle or like you need to bring your own douche water. And I would go to the porta potties and I would do it that way because I always douche on the toilet. I don't usually douche in the shower. That's a little TMI. Sorry about that. And that's a very separate discussion, which is not really. I didn't think I would be talking about douching on the Gay Cruise and Travel podcast. Anyway, it's just something to be aware of at Camp EDC. So, one of my earliest teenage obsessions was skincare. Instead of looking at toys in the kids section at the store, I was looking at moisturizers in the skincare section. As I grew up and navigated my sexuality, I saw that most of the beauty industry was aimed at feminine women, sometimes at masculine men, but everyone else was left out. It wasn't for someone like me. With Surf Labs, I wanted to create a fun skincare experience for everyone. I'm pretty sure your skin doesn't care how mask or femme you are or who you love, but I'm absolutely sure you need to take care of it. Check us out at surflabs.co, servelabs.co, and you can also find us on Instagram and Twitter at surflabs. The Mesa, which is kind of like the central communal part of Camp EDC, that's where they have like public areas, like lounge areas, all the different activities, the food trucks, the food, the drinks, the vendors. They have like a stage there as well. They have the pools. There's all the activities, all the stuff is in the Mesa. It's mostly the same as previous years. I didn't buy any of the food or the drinks at the Mesa because I was with an RV and we did a grocery run with the RV before we drove into EDC on Thursday. So like all the food that I ate at the campgrounds and all the stuff I drank was stuff that we bought at like the grocery store that was like already in the fridge in the RV. So, okay. That's all really I have to say about the camp. Weather, I've been at EDC years where it was like scorching hot. I remember one year, like pre-pandemic, it was Sunday, the last night, and it was like midnight. And I was like, it's midnight and it feels like it's 100 degrees. It was so warm. And I'm a person that usually deals with warm weather pretty well compared to like the average person. And I was like, this is so hot. It's like 100. It feels like it's 100 degrees. It was like midnight or like past midnight on the Sunday night. So that was one year. I have been to EDC like 2 or 3 years where it was cold and windy. So this year on Friday night, it was like the perfect temperature. You know that temperature when you don't feel the temperature? Like you don't feel cold or you don't feel warm? It was like that on Friday night. It was like perfect. Minimal wind. It was not hot. It was not cold. Friday was like perfect. Saturday, however, it was windy and gusty to begin with. I had to put on my windbreaker for sure. And you always bring a windbreaker and a light jacket to EDC no matter the forecast. Because in the desert, it can get windy and the weather can change quite quickly. Saturday, early on, you know, like before midnight, around like up until like 11 p.m.-ish, it was windy. It was gusty. It was properly gusty. I definitely had to have my windbreaker on. The wind chill was very real. But the wind did die down kind of soon after that. Around midnight-ish, it kind of sort of mostly died down. But it was like, it was a little bit chillier. It was a little cooler, the temperatures. Sunday, we had a few spits of rain here and there. Thank God it was just like a few spits, and it wasn't like proper rain. There were like a couple of times shortly after midnight where just suddenly it was like, you know, spitting down rain a little bit here, but it wasn't anything more than that. And it wasn't particularly cold. But there was no wind on Sunday, thank God. So there wasn't any wind chill. And it wasn't cold. It was kind of sort of like a normal-ish temperature. If you're really sensitive to cold, maybe you might feel like a little bit chilly, but like by and large, it was fine. So with the exception of the windstorm early on Saturday night, it was actually pretty good weather. I was checking the forecast. If EDC had been 1 weekend later, the temperature would have been like 95 or like 100 degrees. I would rather it be just like a little bit on the cool side, like in the mid or high 60s, where it's like just a little bit chilly and have like a little bit of wind here and there. Rather it be like 90 something degrees or like 100 degrees. That is like a much better outcome. And this is coming from someone where like I much prefer 90-degree weather and like on like a normal day, not in the desert, just like, you know, in a regular city, to have like, I'd rather it be like 90 degrees than like 70 degrees. I run cold most of the time, and I'm much happier like in the middle of Los Angeles, for example, not in the desert, when it's 90 degrees than when it's like 70 degrees, if I were to be like out and about. Anyways, so the weather was actually pretty good. Thank God it wasn't a heat wave, honestly. The festival itself, it's weird because it's been a few years since I've been to EDC, and I remember when I walked into the festival for the first time on Friday night. I didn't go with the other people in my RV group because I kind of took some extra time to like get ready at the RV. So I kind of came to the festival a little bit afterwards, but it was only like, I don't know, 10 p.m. by the time I got there. It wasn't super late. And just when you walk in from Camp EDC, like you go from Camp EDC, there's a particular entrance for that. You go through security, and then you kind of walk into the speedway from like behind the bleachers up high. And then you walk in, and then you see Cosmic Meadow, I believe. It's like the big stage that you see when you come in from that side of the stadium. And it it instantly felt like home. It instantly felt like, oh my God, I belong here. I'm home. That was like a really magical moment for me. I didn't expect to like feel so emotional coming back to EDC, but like it was just such a great experience, and it just like brought back all the good memories, emotions I had at all the previous times I went to EDC. And I love going to EDC, and I've always had just like the best time at EDC. So to come back after a few years of not going and having FOMO'd a little bit the last couple of years when I wasn't going, and to be able to like luck into this RV that my friend had a last minute spare spot in, to be able to do Camp EDC, which I feel like is such a great experience. And then also to like just walk in and be like, oh my God, this is like, I'm home. This is great. I have a couple of notes on the festival. There's a whole bunch of water stations where you can fill up your camel bag, your hydration backpacks, or your water bottle, whatever it is. There's tons of water stations all throughout because, again, in the desert, it can get very warm, and staying hydrated is very, very important. The water, I don't know if all the water stations had this problem, but the first water station I went to, and usually I only need to fill up my Camelback, my hydration pack, only once per night, sometimes twice if it was like a really warm, sweaty weather, but it wasn't warm or sweaty this year, so I only needed to fill up my pack once. But whatever water station I happened to stumble upon the first night on Friday, that water tasted like literal plastic. I drank it and I was like, did I not wash or rinse out my hydration bladder thing in my backpack properly? Did I leave some soap in there? This tastes like, no, to say that it tastes like ass would be doing a disservice to ass. It tasted like super, super horrible. And I was like talking to some people about it, and they're like, it could have been that the water on the first night they had brought in maybe like a day or two before in like the large plastic water containers. They probably brought it in beforehand, so it was just sitting in that plastic, maybe in the sunlight for like a day or two, and that's why it tastes like crap. I hope I didn't drink a whole bunch of BPAs that night, but like it did not taste healthy. Like it legit tasted like plastic. I've never had water tasted so bad. I do remember on some previous times when I went to EDC that the water did not taste good. But it didn't taste like literal plastic. It tasted more like, okay, this tastes kind of sort of like chlorine. And to have a chlorine taste in water it's not harmful to you. It doesn't taste great, but it's like, okay, at least there's chlorine in the water to know that it's like a disinfectant or whatever. This didn't taste like chlorine. This tastes like fucking plastic. But I did not have this problem on Saturday or Sunday. Like the on Saturday and Sunday, the water tasted, it tasted fine. It didn't taste bad per se. It just tasted like water. So I'm usually pretty thorough when I clean things. Like if you ever see me clean something by hand, it's like it's very thorough. Like it's rinsed very thoroughly. I'm a very thorough person. So for whatever reason, that water tasted like shit on Friday. The food, I just had the chicken tenders and the corn dog. That was all I really wanted to eat. I have some IBS, so I can just eat whatever I want, whenever I want, unfortunately. So there are a lot of good things on some of the menus, like some of the hibachi stuff I would have wanted to try. But I'm not a foodie either, so this is not like a food review. This is more just like some light information for people who are curious what the food situation is like. There's a whole bunch of different food vendors. You can find chicken tenders and fries like anywhere. That's like a staple food at EDC. It's at the Camp EDC Mesa. It's at pretty much any of the food places, tons of different food places, no matter what the name is. They were selling $19 chicken tenders and fries. And it was actually pretty good. This is how much food costs. Most of the items that were like full-size items, they were between $15 to $20, depending on what you were getting. There were places that did rice bowls. There was like a whole bunch of hibachi places. I didn't try it. Lots of chicken tenders and fries. There were burger places. There were pizza places. There were some places that did like slightly more specialty type things. There was like one place that did like candy, but it wasn't very like busy. Definitely like chicken tenders and fries and burgers. I wish they had more pizza places. I feel like pizza is a very like good thing to eat by hand. And I felt like that probably would be like very good for something like EDC. There weren't as many pizza places as I thought there would be. However, it's easy to find the pizza places. You can smell the pizza place before you see it. Definitely, I smell all the pizza. The only food that I smelled before I actually saw the thing. Actually, the only food that was so anywhere that I was able to smell from a distance was pizza. So unfortunately, I wasn't able to eat the pizza because I'm not doing dairy. But the food tasted good for the most part. Again, I only had chicken tenders and fries and corn dogs and hot dogs, but it was fine. I noticed one thing they did that I didn't notice in previous years was the chicken tenders and fries was $19. They also did this snack pack of like, you got one chicken tender and I guess like a little bit of fries. So if you wanted like a little bit of a snack, you weren't super hungry, but you were peckish, you could do that for $9. And I was actually very tempted by that because a lot of time at the festival, you might not want to eat like 3 giant chicken tenders and like a bunch of fries. Maybe you're just like a little bit, you don't tend to be the person that eat a ton of food and you just want a snack. So I was actually going to get and try out, okay, this $9 thing, like how big is that portion? I was going to order it, but the one time I was going to order it, I was lining up already, and I was lining up for like 15 minutes already. I just happened to have gone at like a busy time, and I was like, you know what? I'm not a snack pack type of a person. I was just curious to try the snack pack, but I'm actually kind of hungry, and I've been in this line for $15. I'm just going to get the full size because I don't want to like feel like I lined up for 15 or 20 minutes just to get this tiny little thing. But I noticed that had that option, which I didn't notice in the other years that I went, which has been a few years. So I thought that was a great option. But sometimes you do just want like a little bit of food. All right. I only had the general admission of the GA pass. And there's also a GA plus that you can get. And the main difference is that you get nicer bathrooms. But when I'm at EDC in the festival itself, I only ever need to pee like a few times. I never need to do number 2. I pay a lot of attention to my diet, so I'm like very regular in a good way. And also I have like some IBS, so like, you know, because of that, I eat like extra clean or extra carefully. But the side benefit of that is like my number 2s are very predictable, and I pretty much I don't think I've ever had to like do a number 2 at like a party or a festival or anything. So I can't attest to the porta potties, but the urinals were always free. There that a lot of urinals, even just at the GA, the regular bathrooms, and I never had to wait. So there you go. The last thing I want to talk a little bit about is the gays. So a lot of the times when I was at EDC, I was just solo. As in, like, most of the time, I didn't have a group of people I was moving from stage to stage with. I'm more the type to just, like, wander around. I didn't have, like, I have a few different groups of friends that if I were to go to a festival or party with them, we're kind of sort of, like, chosen family. So we would be, like, much more, like, close-knit. We would tend to just stick together. I didn't have that for this EDC. And I'm usually more of like a free spirit at these types of things. I never decided to wander around by myself. So a lot of the times when I was doing whatever, getting some food or going to the restroom or getting some water, whatever, and I would return to the stage, I was solo all by myself. And I would basically have to look at the stage and figure out where where the people I knew / my friends were. This is just my experience. I was at Kinetic Field the most. Kinetic Field is the biggest stage at EDC Vegas. And there were basically 3 big clusters of gays that I saw. There are obviously more gays than just like the 3 big clusters. But in terms of just like walking up to Kinetic Field, which is like a huge, gigantic stage, and just looking for the gay flags and the gay totems, I always saw kind of like 3 big clusters of gays there. There were a lot of people from Asia that went to EDC actually, and they kind of sort of organized themselves into like their own group, which is like natural. I feel like Asia is very regional in the sense that even if you're living in different countries within Asia, a lot of like the people kind of sort of know each other from. It's kind of sort of like when you're in Europe, like there are a lot of countries in Europe, but like it's not like a huge place per se. and it's kind of relatively easy to like travel between the different European countries, and it's kind of easier to like get to know people in the different countries in Europe. It's a little bit kind of like that in parts of Asia as well. So it didn't surprise me that it did surprise me that there were a lot of people from Asia that went to EDC, but it didn't surprise me that they all kind of sort of organized to kind of be in like a cluster so that they all get to like kind of party together. So there's definitely a big group of a big contingent from Asia that I don't really know many people from Asia, but I did accidentally like somehow wade through them a couple of times. I didn't recognize any of their faces, but I definitely did recognize that, okay, you're all Asian. And then there was the group where it's basically all my friends were there, and it was like a bunch of people that I knew. And they had like they were a different cluster in a different area, and they had like a different set of flags and totems. And then there were a couple of times where like I went towards some rainbow gay flags and totems, and the disclaimer and the thing that kind of makes this make more sense is I don't remember what any of the totems, who belongs to which totems. I totally did not remember, oh, these totems are where my friends are. I just didn't have that. Don't ask me why. It is the way it is. So I was like walking towards some random amount of gay totems or flags or whatever, and I just like walked through a bunch of gays that like I have no idea who these gays are, but these are not my gays. So, but I always saw like these three. I was always able to pick out from a distance, oh, there's a cluster of gays from Asia. There's a cluster of gays where those are my friends, and there's a cluster of gays where like, okay, I don't know who these people are at all. That's not a review per se. That was just my experience. So that was like, and somehow I never bothered to like figure out, oh, I need to be looking for these particular totems to find where my friends are. I know the three of you are screaming like, Joey, why don't you just remember like the 1 or 2 or 3 totems that your friends have so they can just go there? We're not here to unpack that, okay? All right. That was my review / experience / opinions on this year's EDC Las Vegas 2025. I noticed that 2026 was already sold out. And I know that they put the tickets on sale for next year immediately after the current year's festival ends. So I think on like the Monday or Tuesday after, they already started selling the tickets for next year. They start really early. I haven't been to EDC enough time / my memory's just really complete shit to know how quickly usually EDC tickets sell out. But I noticed that it was like Friday, the Friday after I got back. So I got back from Vegas into LA Monday, the Monday, like, you know, like right after the weekend. I noticed like Friday or Saturday, something like that. It was like just under a week, like just less than 7 days after I got back, that EDC had already sold out for next year. And I just threw up a poll on my Instagram to be like, does EDC usually sell out this quickly? 60% of the people said yes, 40% said no. There are several friends of mine that are more into EDM festivals and more into EDC. They're more experienced with it. They go more often than I do. That actually remember and kind of have expectations and of like how quickly it sells out. Of the people that I know that they go to EDC, they're EDC regulars and they're experienced EDC festival goers. Of those people, most of them told me it does not sell out this quickly. Not that it sold out way, way, way faster than previous years, but it did sell out more quickly than what they are usually used to. One thing I did notice, though, is that a couple other people told me, we were chatting about, Camp EDC did not sell out this year. I think in most previous years, Camp EDC sells out. This year, they didn't sell out. But I don't really have any experience booking Camp EDC, because every time I camped at EDC, it was someone else that got the RV and did the RV booking, and I didn't have to do it. I just tagged along, which is like the best way to do it, by the way. Getting an RV for Camp EDC is a lot of work. So if you can just hop on to someone else's RV that they've already booked and they've gotten the RV passport, that's the best way to do it. Big thank you to my friend. I don't know if he wants to be named on the podcast, but big thank you to him. I have thanked him. I'm going to send him an extra thank you after I record this podcast, but big thank you to him for like letting me join his RV. That spot drop out. That someone dropped out of the RV at the last minute. He posted on Facebook, And I just like kind of saw it soon after he posted. I just happened to have seen it, like just coincidentally. And I was able to like join them on that RV, so I'm very thankful for that. Basically, the stars and moon aligned for me to camp at EDC this year. Yeah, but EDC is already sold next year. I went ahead and got a ticket. So I bought a GA ticket for next year, not knowing that it was going to sell it super quickly. I didn't know it was going to sell like 2 days after I went and bought it. But yeah, I don't know 100% if I'm going to go next year. A lot of things can happen in the next like 11 months. But I have the option. So in a year's time, we'll see if I go there or not. Going to EDC is expensive. You know, I did camp. Camp costs money. The RV costs money. But maybe like the least expensive way to do it, I guess, assuming you don't live in Vegas or the area, is you need to get to Vegas somehow. And, you know, that depends on if you can drive to EDC like I did from LA and have that be like a cheap way to get to Vegas, or if you live like halfway around the world, and that obviously is a much more expensive plane ticket. But I guess if you're able to find like a cheap-ish hotel and then get a shuttle, that's what a lot of people do. To do camp, it's like you can get a tent at camp, but you got to like bring in a whole bunch of your stuff. Yeah, I mean, there's no super cheap way to do EDC. Even the EDC festival tickets are like several $100s. They're like, I got the regular GA ticket, which is like the cheapest kind of ticket you can get. That's like over $500, adding like the fees and taxes or whatever. It's like 550, something like that. It's like in that range. And that's just the festival ticket. You need to like get to Vegas. You need a place to stay. You need to like get from wherever you're staying into to the festival. If you're not camping, you need a camping pass. You need to like rent the tent or book an RV, and it's not that cheap. So yeah, I don't know if I'm gonna go next year. Check back next like March or April, and then I'll let you know if I'm going or not. But hopefully you enjoyed this review. I maybe can't even call this a review, but hopefully you enjoyed me talking about my Camp EDC experience this year. Hope you're subscribed to the podcast, and hope you have, again, a great Pride Month. I will see you. I won't see you, but I will talk to you again next week on the next episode of the Gay Cruise and Travel Podcast. Until then, bye, y'all.